everyone, and a very warm welcome to this exclusive podcast. I am your host for today. My name is Ester Martinez, and I'm the CEO and editor in chief at People Matters. And it's great to have you for this conversation. Today, in this podcast, we're going to be going deeper on a topic that I absolutely feel it's vital for our businesses, especially navigating through transformation. And we're going to talk about coaching as a learning tool to enable and drive business transformation. This conversation, as you know, is part of the week activities that we're organizing for our community under the theme Transformation in Action. So this is brought to you in partnership with Skillsoft, and we're going to be doing a lot of activities during this week that is going to really bring all together to help you look at transformation in a much more actionable way. And this time, we're going to be focusing on the importance of coaching. And specifically, I'm going to have our host for today, and I'm very, very excited and thrilled to welcome her to this conversation. Her name is Leena Rinne. Hi, very warm welcome, Leena. Leena Rinne is Vice President Coaching at Skillsoft, and she has over 15 years of experience really driving results, driving team capability, team transformation, and really building a culture of trust. So it's very excited to have you with us in this conversation, Leena.
Thank you, Esther. It's a pleasure to be with you, and thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to start with the first question about coaching as a skill. And as you know, during this whole week, we're talking about transformation in action, and coaching is an important element of change management and transformation. So tell us a little bit more about how do you see coaching in the context of business transformation?
Yeah, thanks. So when you talk about evolution in an organization, and particularly when you're in a business, the last few years have been really, really disruptive, right? We've had, anyone could say that in their industry, in their organization. And coaching has emerged and also been highly disrupted over that time. So the industry's changed a lot, we can say, over the last 3 to 5 years. It used to be that coaching was simply for the executive level, and it used to be that much of coaching happened in person. And of course, there's enormous benefit to both of those things. But times have really changed. And over the last 3 years, we see that now coaching is for all levels in an organization, particularly for all levels of leaders. And it's gone really digital. So it's not just in person. Now, the important part about that is that we know leaders create culture and leaders drive results. So when we're talking about business transformation, this is the population inside of your business that's really driving that transformation.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm going to invite you to double click on the two aspects. And I love your comment about coaching has emerged, but coaching has radically changed. So let's kind of double click on these two parts of your opening comments. So the first one is coaching has emerged, and you mentioned that it's really for not a particular level, but all levels of leaders. And let me invite you to tell us a little bit more about what is the kind of behavior change or the benefits that coaching has, specifically when you look at coaching at all levels in the organization and not at the senior leadership, which was traditionally how we were looking at coaching before.
Yeah, absolutely. And Esther, I'll look forward to your insight in this as well. But when we talk about driving behavior change, and again, in any organization, it's your people who do the things, right? So if you want different results, you need your people to do something different. And when you talk about driving behavior change, anyone who's interested in this topic or anyone who has studied this topic knows that getting new skills, driving different behavior change isn't about going to a training. It's not about being told what to do. It's not even just self-awareness or reflection. There's an entire cycle that each individual needs to engage in order to drive transformation, to get better results. And that includes, when we talk about it at Skillsoft Coaching, we use the words assess, learn, apply, practice, reflect, and back into assess again. So really, you're looking at this transformative cycle that an individual needs to go through. Now, I'll say what we know is that at the center of that, if that's going to be an effective cycle of change, you've got coaching as the engine for each one of those stages. It's not that coaching is a stage you go through in order to get transformation. It actually is part of every single one of those stages. So coaching should be part of your assessment. It should be part of your learning. So in the way that we see it and what we're seeing as organizations are offering coaching at all levels of leadership, it really is ensuring that there's true change, that there's true engagement in that behavior change by the individual. I'm not sure if you're seeing the same thing or if that's your experience, but that's what we're seeing at Skillsoft Coaching.
Super. May I invite you to tell us again the stages of the transformational cycle? So you talked about assessment, you talked about
Yes.
learning, then
Yes. And then application. So it's how do you
application.
apply what you've learned to really the world day to day for you? I mean, candidly, Esther, you and I could learn how to have a better performance conversation with our employees, or we could learn how to be more empathetic in our leadership. But it's one thing to learn it, and Skillsoft offers amazing learning, but
Yeah,
it's a different thing to take that and say, okay, but what does it look like on my team? What does it
yeah,
look like in my voice, right? So it's that application. Then we've got practice. And of course, this one's easy to put as a simple part of a cycle, and it's a really hard one to do because practice means you're going to succeed sometimes, you're going to fail sometimes. And that's where having a coach as you go through that practice phase can be really helpful. And then we say there's a place in that cycle to reflect. So you're
yeah.
going to see how far you've come, you're going to see perhaps where you still have opportunity to advance. And then that's where you go back into that assessment. So that's the cycle. Those are the stages that we see as effective in transformation for the individual.
Lovely, lovely. And I love what you're mentioning, that coaching is really an engine that goes through all of them, because traditionally we've understood coaching more on the practice stage and not necessarily as part of, the assessment, learning,
Yes.
and application and reflection, but only really during the practice. And then after that, it kind of gets disconnected. It doesn't go neither before nor after.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so tell
I
us more
think it's
about that.
Yeah, I mean, if I can share an example. So, in a
Yes.
previous role, I was a senior vice president over our consultants, our facilitation, our coaches in a previous role.
Yeah.
And in that role, we were really doing extensive some people call them culture survey or engagement survey. And that included a 360 about your leaders. So I led a division of several hundred people, and I got this 360 results. And so that was the assess phase. And
Yeah.
when I got the results, I have to say it was a profound experience on its own. I'd had previous 360s, but none with that many people replying. There was data in that 360 that was really validating. There was some data that was a little painful to read, but that is as meaningful as the assessment would have been,
Yeah.
except I had an appointment with my coach scheduled for 3 days later. So I saw those assessment results and 3 days later met with my coach. And it was in that 1 hour meeting with my coach that the results to that assessment became, they came alive for me. Rather than just reading them flatly and having a lot of emotion, positive
Yeah.
and or negative,
Yeah.
my coach helped me navigate some of the themes to say, and then helped me to say, what could I do differently? Which ones are
Yeah.
most important? So those assessments without a coach would have been a bit flat, maybe we can
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
But with the coach, they became alive. And I left that 1 hour conversation with an immense amount of self-awareness, a plan, and areas of focus that I could actually get better. So that's one example of where coaching, you wouldn't say necessarily intuitively plays in the assessment phase of transformation. But if you want
Yeah.
better results, it has to play there as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as I hear your example, I think many times in organizations, you may just have your manager, but your manager may or may not be trained as a coach. And with best of his or her intentions, your own bias and my own experience of working with you get on the way for me to explain what the assessment is saying. And it might not necessarily give that, impact, as you were
Yeah,
beautifully
that's
saying with your
right.
own example.
Well said. Yeah, coaching is a skill. In order to
Yeah,
be an effective coach, it is many hundreds of hours of learning and training and practice themselves to become great coaches. And not everyone's intuitively a great coach. So it's a really
correct,
good point you make.
correct. Wonderful. So tell us a little bit more on the second part. And we're going to come back to coaching as a skill in a minute. But I loved what you mentioned, that the evolution we've gone through, especially in the last 2.5, 3 years, 4 years, it's really made coaching a lot more digital. And I love for you to comment on, what is it that coaching in the digital channel provides you? What are all the amazing positives that it brings? And also, in your experience, what are some of the things that actually may be a drawback from the traditional face-to-face coaching? What is your experience about where is best to be used and where may or may not be the right
Yeah.
channel?
Great question. Great question. I'll look forward to your thoughts here as well. Here's mine. You know, and what we're seeing again at Skillsoft Coaching, the world has evolved, and it is a really exciting time to be observing all of these changes. But we are in a world of digital evolution. The buzzword of the year is AI. I'm sure that's going to be a buzzword for a long time. And technology absolutely does play into coaching itself and into coaching initiatives that an organization is looking to implement on. So a couple of ways we're seeing that. The expectation of individuals is that everything can be digital. And in some cases, people prefer it. So rather than being in person, there are many people who maybe coaching is new, and the digital engagement, the virtual engagement, gives a little bit of comfort to them, right? It's maybe a little less vulnerable. It's a little more targeted, right? We get right to the focus of the issue that we are there to discuss. So there's something about the experience of being virtual that actually some people prefer.
Yeah.
The danger is the assumption that somehow this digital engagement can replace the human interaction and the human side, which it doesn't. Now, I think we can say that the pandemic came at a really interesting time globally because there were all these platforms that we could actually see each other's eyes, even if it is through a screen. Imagine, 30 years ago when we would have been on conference calls instead, right? So in some ways we can say it's not that there's zero human interaction when we're virtual, but certainly we all know that the energy is a little different than when we're in that room. So it's finding the balance between the two and understanding that there are benefits and drawbacks. One of the benefits truly is the ability to scale inside of an organization. It's budget dollars and cents. It's more affordable to be doing virtual digital coaching. And then the last thing I'll say on this is for organizations, for leaders that are purchasing coaching for their teams or for their high potentials, the digital element of our coaching allows for an incredible amount of data and metrics about the coaching. So it lets us see, the before and after of behavior change. It lets us see, how many engagements people are scheduling or how many engagements they're completing. So while, of course, the engagement itself is still fully confidential, we're not tracking metrics on that, anyone can see this holistic view of what's happening in that coaching engagement that we purchased for the organization and the ROI that we're getting from that investment. So that's what I'm thinking in terms of the digital and human intersection. What other thoughts do you have, or what did that spark for you?
Yeah. No, I love what you're mentioning, Leena, in the sense that the two things are happening at the same time. When you were talking about emerging and really being made available at all levels, one of the concerns that you have is consistency of experience. And I think digital coaching can provide that affordability because it can provide that experience across levels. If you were to do that in a physical setting, then probably will be more difficult to provide that consistency, especially across countries, across cultures. And I think I love your point about making it scalable. I'm curious to know, would it be a moment or a time where actually we have a coach which is a AI coach as opposed to a human coach? And even if technology is available, which probably in some cases it may be, um, do you think we will still prefer a human coach?
So, such a great question. I do think now candidly at Skillsoft, we are developing an early version of an AI, what we could call an AI coach. But here's how we're seeing it, and where that intersection again of the human and technology, I think there's an inclination to look at those as conflicting or having some type of rub between the two, when actually the excitement that we have about this is that they can dovetail and support each other so well. And here's an example of that. So the AI simulator coach that we're working on, that we have clients using and testing right now, it is meant to be used exclusively at that practice phase in the transformation cycle. So for example, if you were my coach and we're talking about how I can more effectively create accountability on my team, how I can manage performance on my team, then you would actually, as my coach, assign me this, what we call Casey. So it's an AI simulator coach. And this coach, I would log in and I would just practice the conversation, just that one conversation. So I would be the manager, the AI simulator would be my employee. And based on what I say, it's generative AI. So it will respond differently based on how I engage in the conversation. You can also flip it, and I can be the employee and the coach, or the AI coach can be the manager. So in that example, what we're saying is, if you want to get really better, much better at something, you have to do it over and over and over again. And if I'm doing that with team members, say I have 20 team members and I'm practicing with them, some of those conversations will go well and some will not. But in person to person, if the conversation doesn't go well, I'm going to pay a price for it. My culture is going to take a hit. My engagement's going to take a hit. The employee I didn't do well with is going to be less likely to bring their best self to work every day. By allowing a safe environment that I can get a lot of practice with an AI, simulation, that's an amazing way that I can, again, transformation. But what we don't see happening, and I think as humans, we don't see that I'm going to sit on one side of a call virtually, and there's going to be, a CGI human that is offering me coaching, right? So we see that there's this place for the human side, and there's a place for the AI side, but they work together.
While you still see the opportunity for people to talk together, the practice element is what allows AI to provide that comfort to the manager.
That's right.
So I wanted to, I think one of the things that you mentioned was the importance of this whole cycle. And I would love to get your opinion about what's the role of the manager or the people leader or the leadership. On the one hand, there is the assessment, the learning, the application, practice, reflection, back to assessment, and the coach who supports me across. Now, what's the role of my manager, and how does my manager get access to potentially some relevant information to reinforce maybe some of the behaviors that the coach is working with the individual?
Yeah. In an optimal setting, the way I see the manager and the culture is almost like the ecosystem that transformation cycle exists in. Now, leaders create culture, period. We know that. In fact, some recent data I saw said that your leader actually shapes like 60% of your well-being in your life, not just your work life, but in your life. So our leaders, they shape our well-being, our mental health, how we feel when we wake up in the morning. All of that's created in many ways by our manager, our direct leader. So the role that the leader can play is, one, we're creating culture. We create a culture of learning. We create a culture of coaching. We model the behaviors. We have coaches ourselves. We work towards being better leaders. We value high performance. We value new skills, because again, what a leader values is what their team will value. So there's this kind of philosophical way that is critical that a leader plays into effective coaching engagements. And then to what you said, there's also this very tactical way that they play into coaching engagements. One, they're going to sponsor them, right? They're going to invest in coaching. They're going to, in fact, with Skillsoft coaching, we often have a 3-way manager call with the coach, the employee, and the manager, right, as you begin the engagement. And sometimes we'll do those midpoint, and we'll do them at the end if the client wants as well. So, but again, there's this tactical way that they are invested in what we're going to be talking about. Of course, your manager is going to fill out your 360. Of course, your manager is going to be evaluating your progress in that 360. So it's the culture ecosystem and it's the tactical support that become both really important. And as a leader, look, we know every leader is overwhelmed and exhausted and busy themselves. But what I would say is, there is almost no better investment you can make as a leader than in the development of your people. If you want better results, it is going to come through your people. In fact, the only reason that you are in a leadership role is because you are there to get results through other people on your team. So if you can optimize their level of engagement, if you can optimize their capability and their skill set, that is differentiated results that you'll get.
So, a lot of the listeners today are CHROs, HR leaders who are responsible for really that people transformation. And as they probably listen to you, and you've had the opportunity to work with many organizations around the world, and we'd love to know your experience on how do you approach. Maybe some organizations have done a little bit of coaching here and there, but they don't have that, as you mentioned, that coaching ecosystem, and they don't necessarily have that. I would say that platform that allows managers to really support their teams. So, what would be the kind of roadmap or approach that you will invite us if we haven't yet really jump into the swimming pool to leverage coaching as a way to transform? How do we go about it? How will you assess us to get started and really embrace coaching as a way of transformation, and also as a way to enable our people managers to really enable each individual in the organization?
Yeah, great question. You know, for any HR L&D professional, I think the first thing you need to do is pull out your development plan or your leadership development and look at where coaching is already incorporated. Every forward-looking organization right now is ensuring that coaching is part of their development plan. In fact, I think this is the first time where coaching is becoming a board worthy conversation. Like there are boards that are asking, what is it that you're doing for coaching? Right. So just ensure that you have accounted for where coaching currently or future planning plays into development. My recommendation there is that coaching is effective at all levels in an organization, but start with the most senior levels that you can. In that case, you know, some cases it's your whole C-suite goes through coaching. In some cases, it might not be C-suite, but it's -1 level where it's going to be that level.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there are many different partners you can choose from for coaching. I would say when you're evaluating a partner, you're going to want to look at someone who can, in that transformation cycle, meet you at every one of those points. And I think that's candidly why Skillsoft is such preferred partner here, because we can assess, we can help you learn, we can help you apply. You know, so find someone that you're not creating this disjointed experience for your leaders, but you're just putting them in one place, and that entire cycle of transformation exists. As you're evaluating it and getting going, again, picking the right partner, picking the right people in your organization, look for stakeholders in your organization who are going to be advocates for this as well. So you might run a small pilot with a few people, and then they become your champions to ensure that you can get the resources and the budget that you need to be able to implement on coaching. Your coaching provider should be able to help you get some of those ROI metrics as well, so that you're not fighting an uphill battle just explaining over and over again why coaching is valuable. Coaching delivers measurable results. So having the metrics will be really important. And then the last thing I would say is change is hard. And I mean, any HR L&D professional can attest to the enormous effort it can be to get your leaders and your people to engage and to care, even if it's something they deeply believe in, even if they know it's the right thing to do. So change is hard. Moving through this process as a change management initiative, making sure that you're getting buy-in, making sure you're create clear picture of where you're going and why. So almost treating it like a change management as you implement as well will be important.
Yeah. So my last question is gonna be if you could share a little bit more about the ROI, because I think, as you mentioned, what you have experienced is that it actually provides measurable results. So it'll be great if you could share some of those metrics that you think are, that are going to help our listeners to be able to create a business case for coaching at a scale.
Yes, great Great question, and thanks for letting me share on this one. Again, we're really excited about this at Skillsoft Coaching because we've completed over 100,000 coaching sessions. We're actually coming up near 150,000, and we've
Wow.
aggregated the results that we're getting in those sessions. And I'll say you can think about results on two fronts. One, the individual results. So me, as I go through a coaching session. Now, those results we actually can see at the beginning of a coaching session. Your leaders should be setting focus area and goals. We can show that there's an 89% goal achievement rate. So after one coaching engagement, 89% of those focus areas and goals are achieved. So right there, boom, that's pretty great results. But in addition to that, we can see in the 360 evaluation, both the self and the 360 from those around you, we can see again over 6 months, marked improvement in the capabilities that I'm being measured on. Now, those capabilities vary because every organization customizes what they'd like to have focused on.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the individual results. Then you start saying, okay, but what are the business metrics? Are we actually reducing
Yeah.
turnover? Are we increasing engagement? And that's where picking the right coaching partner will help you to evaluate what are the things you should be measuring. How are we measuring the before and after? So that's why I think where your coaching provider can be of a lot of help. But there is a lot of data in the industry, and we're seeing the same thing, that you get increased engagement, reduced turnover, better outcomes organizationally as well as individually when you engage in coaching. It's
Yeah.
really exciting, I think.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And how do we make sure that we make this sustainable?
Mm.
Because I think as I hear you, when we talk about personal ROI, individual ROI, business ROI, these are long-term commitments. This is not a program that we do for a quarter and then we do something else. What I hear you say is that this is a way of looking at development differently, or looking at personal, individual, and business transformation as an ongoing basis. So what's your word of advice on how do we make sure these initiatives are sustainable and not an initiative, but really a way of working or a way of living within the business?
Yes, yes. I would say the first thing is to do exactly what you said and just shift your mindset about it. Coaching should not be something you think, oh, we're going to start it in January and end it in July. Development, you don't think about development that it starts in January and ends in July. This is an integral part of
Yeah.
development. So we have clients that allow their associates or team members to opt into coaching, or they'll invest in their high potentials. But you always have leaders that are coming in as new leaders or that are in transition. And especially at those pivotal points, ensuring that you're providing the support that your people need through development, skill gap closure, through coaching. But knowing that if you're going to continue to invest and increase and get better, you're going to need to continue to develop and close skill gaps and offer coaching. So we have some clients that certainly you have a leader that maybe takes 6 months of coaching and then says, okay, I'm going to take a few months and focus on everything we just learned. And then I'm going to come back and do another coaching engagement. That we're finding that is increasingly common, that it becomes just embedded in how we develop our leaders, rather than the way you said, there's not a stop and an end date. This is a cycle that feeds on itself and that fuels itself and becomes this flywheel for outcomes, business outcomes in the organization. But it starts with the mindset.
Thank you so much, Leena. I can really see the impact that you and your team is created. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing your reflections and learnings.
Thank you, Esther. Such a pleasure to be with you. I appreciate the time. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And we've just had an opportunity and a privilege to have Leena, Rinne, Vice President Coaching at Skillsoft. Very, very happy to learn from you, Leena, and from your experience working with organizations across industries. So we would like to also, of course, thank the complete Skillsoft team for bringing us all together. And we're going to have more information about how can Skillsoft help your organization transform, not only at the coaching part, which is what we covered today, but across the complete cycle, which is what Leena was sharing with us today and how each one of those elements interconnect. So inviting you to visit our partner's website, www.skillsoft.com. Don't forget to check out the complete activity. I'm going to invite the team to put the link as well in the comments. So then you can see all the activities that we're planning in the Transformation in Action week. And the link will be provided with you in the description. Just look at it in the description or in the comments of this conversation. And thank you once again for joining us, and see you very soon in the next activity of Transformation in Action. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.